going to start with the non-public DTC call. So welcome. Thank you all for being patient as I finished answering some questions for our DTCs. So we are now starting the non-public DTC call. If you are a public DTC, you're more than welcome to stay, but just wanted to give you a heads up. We're starting the next call. All right. So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. We have a few things to talk about today, but there's only a couple things that are really new information. The majority of this is going to be reminders for you all as a non-public test coordinator. So there are some items in the month-by-month checklist that I want to highlight. As you know, we have started grades 3 to 8 online testing. High school testing starts next Monday, and then our paper-based window for those 3rd and 4th grade students taking paper will be April 30th through May 4th. So some things that should be either already finished or about to be wrapped up would be training for those schools or those test administrators, setting up sessions within eDirect, making sure that accommodations have been verified, test tickets being printed, things like that. So all of that can be done if you are still in the planning phases, especially as you approach high school testing for next week. You can begin ordering additional materials for your grades 3 to 4 testers today. So you would have received your initial shipment yesterday. If you have students taking the ACT, our makeup test date for ACT is April 24th, and we'll go over a couple of deadlines later on in the presentation. Some highlights for May would be that our ELPT and Lead Connects Law 1 scores will be released. May 11th is the last day for CLEP test scores to be included in school performance. And all testing irregularities for grades 3 to 8 and for high school should be submitted to assessment@la.gov, and those due dates are listed here. We also have advanced placement testing that's May 1st through the 12th. For accountability, we have a couple quick things. The first one is about the 3rd-year assessment cohort files. ESSA law requires that all kids take an ELA and math test at least one time in high school. In Louisiana, we require that they take English 2 and Algebra 1 or Law 1 ELA and math. We posted a roster of students who have not taken ELA or math by their 3rd year in the FTP, and there's also an FAQ in there to help you with questions you may have about how to use that roster. Students have been preloaded in eDirect, and they must either be tested or given an appropriate accountability code. Students that aren't tested or are not coded will be given a 0 for each subject in the assessment and progress indices to be used to calculate SPS. A student who takes the English 3 or geometry in the spring will not need to participate in English 2 or algebra if they are not enrolled in English 2 or algebra. The following codes can be used to excuse a student from testing as part of the 3rd-year cohort. Jumping into technology readiness, again, these slides I believe have been on every presentation all year, but I just wanted to give you another reminder as you're preparing for high school testing next week, and if you're planning for summer testing for those of you that have high school for this summer. So there are a few things that need to take place. You should definitely be working with your technology coordinator to ensure that devices are ready, everything's installed, you have a plan in place for when testing happens in case any issues come up. You all should be tag teaming it the whole time. So one way to check is you can, or a student can, log into the OTT using the text-to-speech version, and if that works, then you're good to go. Another thing to do would be to check at least one device per TSM before testing starts, just to make sure everything is set up correctly. Another thing would be to do the system readiness check, which is a check mark at the bottom of the screen where you can select that and type in the code 7745. That screen will then display check marks that should be all green. If they are not, you definitely need to have your technology coordinator notified so they can help fix what's not ready before testing. A reminder about Windows 10, if you have kids that are going to be testing on a device with Windows 10, the access needs to be turned off for Cortana, and this can be done manually using group policy or the registry editor. This is a reminder about our technical assistance protocol. If you click the link here, you'll be sent to a one-pager of this exact slide. So if you want to print this to give to your school test coordinators, your TAs, please do that. It is so important that this protocol is followed. So if a student encounters an issue or a question, they should raise their hand, tell their teacher or TA, and then the teacher or TA should help solve it. If they can't solve it, they should alert the school test coordinator. If the school test coordinator has done everything they possibly can and still can't solve it, then they should contact you, the district test coordinator, or your district technology coordinator. If you all can't figure out and still need help, please call us or DRC and we will help you. We definitely want to reduce the amount of calls we get from teachers because they will be directed back to you all to help solve the problem at the site. Our online scheduling guidance can be used as you all may be preparing for schedules for high school testing or for the summer. But this document is guidance on how schools and districts can determine their schedule based on the number of devices they have, how long they want to test, and using best practices for reducing testing time. The guidelines still apply for online, which means no more than 3 sessions can be given in a day. Extended response sessions should not be given on the same day, and that sessions within a content area must be given in order. So session 1, then 2, then 3. These next couple of slides just link documents as reminders. So we have our assessment FAQ about technology. Your technology coordinator and you should have this in your hands. The technology user guide that's linked here should be your tech person's best friend, as they've already used this to set up everything, but it's definitely good to reference in case things come up. It's very technical, so I wouldn't give this to a test administrator. This should definitely be for your tech person or for you. The other document that is probably the most helpful for a non-tech person is this document, and this is called Technical Troubleshooting Tips. And this is great for a TA to use or for a school test coordinator to use in the moment. It's just short and sweet. If this happens, try this. If this happens, try that. If they don't work, then they should then contact someone else. So it's definitely stuff they can try to troubleshoot in the moment without, calling everyone under the sun. This is really great to handle in the moment. Also, as a reminder, you have your training account, which is under the 777 site code in eDirect. This is under the practice test administration, and you have 10 sample kids in there. So if you're about to train your high school people or the people that are helping with summer testing, this would be great so that you can go in and show them how to do all of the different tasks in the system without showing student information. Also, if you have homebound students, you probably already have a plan in place, but just as a reminder, these are the 4 options for testing kids that are homebound. Of course, security should still be maintained and the same procedures should be followed. It just happens to be that these students are testing at home, so everything else should remain the same. A couple of neat tools for you all to use, especially if you're new as the testing coordinator. The student status dashboard is a really good view into what's happening in your district. You can display the testing status by school and administration, and you can filter for grade, content area, and things like that. It's really, really cool, and it's probably our DTC's favorite thing about eDirect is this. So if you haven't played around with this, you should definitely check it out. It's awesome, and there's a user guide. The user guide in eDirect shows you how to use this if you need help. We also have some cool reports that are in eDirect that help you just assess the status of your schools during testing. So these are under the online testing statistics tab, and there are these reports listed in that tab, and you can access those whenever you need. So an example would be excessive logins or the cumulative status of your students, so it lets you know the kids in a test session if they finished or if they're in progress or things like that. So it's just another way to give you insight into what's going on in your LEA. Also, as you all know, the online tools training should be used all year to get students and teachers familiar with the system. There are tutorials that are in eDirect that help walk through all the tools, but students should be using this, and I'm sure they're using LEAP 360, so they don't really need to use the OTT if they're using LEAP 360 because they have more experience doing that. But in the event you get a new kid and they've never used this before, they definitely need to get on the OTT to check it out. It lets them play around with all the features just to get them familiar before they actually jump in and take the test. For test security, we just have a few reminders. The first one is you as the DTC are responsible for completing an investigation of any severe irregularity, and that could be even with the result of a student's test being voided or lost materials, anything like that that would be severe. So the template linked here is the minimum that you need to do for your investigation, and then you'll submit that to assessment@la.gov. If a student cheats, their test will be voided. And so what needs to happen is the TA needs to write up a statement about what happened with any documentation they have about the student cheating. Then the STC, the school test coordinator, will need to have a meeting with the principal, themselves, and the TA, and that team will determine if the test should be voided. Once that happens, they'll fill out a void notification form because they are notifying you of the void. Then you as the DTC will verify the void by completing the void verification form, and you'll submit that to us at assessment@la.gov. As a reminder, we talked about this a lot in the beginning of the year, but as you prepare for spring high school and summer high school, if you want to purchase services for monitoring, investigations, or training through Cavion, their information is linked here. We've negotiated an agreement with them, and so their fee schedules are listed, and you can definitely reach out to Cavion directly, but they are the nation's leading test security experts, and they provide these services. So if you're interested, you might want to check that out. All right, for K-3, this applies to our public students. This is some guidance that was just released on the KEA, which is the Kindergarten Entry Assessment, and K-3 literacy assessments, which are given to kindergarten, first, second, and third graders. Each fall, these are administered, and you will have within the first 30 days of school to administer this. The KEA is for first-time kindergartners, and the two choices for that assessment are DRDP and TS Gold, and we have both of those this year. The choices for K-3 literacy are DIBELS, Next, STEEP, and STEP. Those are the three choices we have next year, which differ from this year's guidance. So if you click on the link at the top, it'll display all of this for you. You all will submit this data with the SIS collection in October, and you also will be filling out a survey by April 27th to indicate which assessment you're choosing for the KEA and K-3 literacy. The chart here is in the guidance, but just so you know, this will give you the skills that are measured by those assessments along with some resources for you to download. This is the timeline for the release of the 2017-2018 school and school system level assessment results. You all should come up with a plan for how you want to communicate this to principals, teachers, and families. The one thing that I just want to really emphasize here is, as a reminder, the LEAP 2025 high school tests, except U.S. history, will be released at the end of the testing window. So for our EOC tests, they have that 4-day turnaround. They're in window. The LEAP 2025 ones, though, are going to be beginning to be released at the end of the window and will finish by May 24th. This next slide just gives you the links about testing your non-public, non-scholarship kids. So the information is linked here. This is nothing new, but just another reminder for you all if you are choosing to test your non-public, non-scholarship students. We also have some committees that are being formed coming up. They'll convene May through September, and they're the Assessment Development Educator Review Committees. And the people on these committees review assessment items and also provide recommendations for scoring. So we have some links here to help you with what these committees are if you're interested in nominating some teachers. And the surveys close April 20th and May 4th. For our grades 3 to 8 key dates, the upcoming tasks would be that April 24th is the last day to order materials before the paper testing window begins. So you can order them after April 24th, but to guarantee them to arrive before that Monday, you need to order them before April 24th or by April 24th. You've already received your paper-based materials. The additional materials window opens today, so if you need extra materials, feel free to order those. Keep in mind, if you need to order the Read Aloud CDs for grades 3 and 4, you must order that through additional materials, and the CD will be sent to you. Also, as a reminder, while we're on grades 3 to 8, if you have a student that has Read Aloud by a human reader, the TA needs to use that accommodated consumable test booklet. So kids who have Read Aloud and kids who have transferred answers must absolutely 100% use the accommodated version of the book. So these say accommodated on it. There's directions in the manuals. If you need more, let us know through additional materials. But they must use an accommodated version. If for whatever reason you have a kid that has a Read Aloud accommodation by a human reader and that human reader needs a book, they'll put the Read Aloud label on that book that they use, but they need to make sure that they are using an accommodated version of the book. Otherwise, your TA is going to have a different test than the kid, and the TA is going to be reading the test, and the kid is not going to have any of that on their test. So we just want to make sure you are using the correct version of the book, of the test. These are the paper-based test material pickup dates listed here, as well as in the manual. Also, as a reminder, paper-based testing makeups are May 7th and 8th, which means, as a reminder, the online testing does not have a separate makeup window. We give you 4 weeks to get everything done, including makeup. For LEAP 2025 high school, the key dates are listed here, but you can order additional materials if you need those. Remember, these are for students that either have the accommodation for Braille or they have a sign language interpreter and they need a script for that interpreter to sign the test. Those are the additional materials we're talking about for high school. They do not take their tests on paper, so there's no like bulk order of materials that are needed. That window opens Monday and ends the 18th. And May 21st is the deadline to submit invalidations for tests being voided. If you have those accommodated materials I mentioned earlier, those are due back to DRC on May 23rd, and rescore requests are due to DRC on June 15th. Some scheduling reminders for high school are to make sure school test coordinators are entering the designated begin and end date for each test session. LEAP 2025 tests are timed, EOCs are not. The only students eligible to take the 4-level U.S. History EOC are kids who are graduating or they're a retester and they're not in the class. If you have questions about the high school assessments, we have an FAQ linked here. For unlocking and invalidating test tickets, only you as the DTC should be doing this, and you'll complete a testing irregularity form when this happens and send it to assessment@la.gov. An example of this would be if a student is taking the test and they get sick and they go home. You're going to need to unlock that test for them to finish it the next day. Some accommodations reminders include kids who have accommodations on an IEP or IAP, they're in SIR or SIS, those will be uploaded by DRC. If you have kids that are not pre-identified, they're going to need to be added directly into eDirect by the school test coordinator. For those kids who have a read-aloud accommodation for a 504 plan, they will need to be manually entered. That will not be uploaded for them, which is why it is so important that school test coordinators are going in to review and verify all accommodations in the system. If you have a student with a PNP or an English learner plan, those will need to be manually entered as well. Accommodations must be verified or assigned before that student is placed into a test session. Otherwise, it's not attaching that accommodation to the kid and they might not get the right form. So you want to make sure that the accommodations are applied before the student's put into a test session. Also, another reminder would be that this year, this is new, we have text-to-speech and Spanish as online accommodations listed on the roster that's printed out. So a TA can easily see which kid should have text-to-speech or Spanish on their screen just to make sure everything is rolling okay. For students that have read aloud for English 3, the passages in session 2 and 3 and their questions cannot be read aloud or signed. This will result in a void. So these are not to be read aloud. For English 1 and English 2, everything can be read aloud. But again, as long as you have text-to-speech selected in the system, it will do all the work for you. It will read what it's supposed to read aloud, and you won't have to worry about which passages or which questions to do it for. A reminder, most of these I've already mentioned, but a reminder about seniors for reports. Seniors who get an automatic rescore of the 4-level EOC will receive their scores 8 days after taking the test. So it takes 4 days to turn it around. If they get a rescore, that's another 4 days. So that's 8 days total. So just keeping in mind, seniors for sure need to be testing at the beginning of the window, but just wanted to remind you that if they do qualify for a rescore, it would be 8 days. Also, students should be provided scratch paper, and that scratch paper must be collected at the end of the administration, and the STC should destroy it. The protocol for students transferring is listed below. It's also in the manual. If you need to transfer a kid, if you just have one kid, feel free to call DRC or email. If you have multiple, you'll need to fill out the transfer form and email it to DRC. And this is from students outside of your LEA. For accountability coding, this is something that's done at the end of the window, so you shouldn't be accountability coding anybody right now. because it's not near the end of the window. So what you'll do is, for students that need to be accountability coded, you'll place them in a test session for each subject and apply the code. The documentation for a code should be available for review during an audit. So you as the DTC should definitely require your school test coordinator to have all the documentation needed to apply that accountability code. If they don't, I would ask for it and make sure that they are 100% sure this code should be applied, because it will be asked for during an audit. The other thing to keep in mind is, if you want to pull up a list of accountability codes that have been applied, you'll go under Manage Test Session, then pick the district and school, and then you'll export the details. And there'll be a column labeled Testing Codes, and it'll list the code for those kids. This is the technical assistance protocol again. Again, if you click the link, it will bring you to a one-pager of this slide for you to give to everyone involved with testing. As you prepare for summer testing, definitely keep working with your technology coordinator, but there are some things on here just for you all to keep in mind as you plan for the summer. You want to make sure you know which sites you're going to use, which devices you're going to use for testing, and that you have a plan in place for making sure all those devices are still ready. But you should definitely be working very closely with your technology coordinator to make sure all of this is good to go. I linked the technology user guide here just in case you all need it, and in the event that you have someone different helping with summer testing, which we tend to see a lot in our district. So if you need help to support that person, just let us know. For ACT and WorkKeys, we just have a few reminders. This first slide is just a link to all of the documents, resources that have been provided throughout the year in case you need to refer to those. This next slide just lets you know that tomorrow is the deadline to order ACT accommodations materials for makeup testing. The 24th, next Tuesday, is makeup testing date for our standard time test. It also begins the accommodations window, which ends the 30th for those students that need to make up ACT on paper with accommodations. And then the FedEx pre-scheduled pickups are the 26th and May 2nd. For ELPT and Lead Connect and Law 1, we have a few reminders. This section actually has something that's new that hasn't been referred to in previous webinars. So I'll repeat it a couple of times just to make sure you all hear it a few times. Results are still being released in May, but I want to go over the online reporting system that we have for the ELPT results. The online reporting system, ORS, there is a user guide that will be posted in the ELPT portal under resources, and it will go over the things I'm going to talk about next, but also everything as far as the system offers. Your login will be the same login you have for everything else, so your login and password will remain the same. The online reporting system has two main features: score reports and retrieve student results. Score reports allows for a comparison of proficiency by grade level, and the retrieve student results allows you to download the data and to download individual student reports. Score reports display aggregated scores for district schools, teachers, and rosters, as well as individual student performance data for the ELPT. You can use these reports to determine strategies that may improve teaching and learning. You can view performance trends and determine whether overall performance is improving. Data can be compared with the overall state and district average for the test you're analyzing. Reports are navigated by making selections in the exploration menu. So this menu has a who and a what drop-down. The who allows for reports to be categorized by school, teachers, rosters, or students, and then the what is allowing you to compare proficiency by subject or domain. Retrieve student results allows the user to download student data for a selected administration. The data can be downloaded as an Excel document or as a zip file with PDFs of individual student reports. For LEAP Connect and Law 1, again, those results will still be released in May, but those will be in eDirect. Those reports are going to be accessed under the Report Delivery tab under all applications. There are student reports, and you can display testing scores for students, and then you can also save it as a PDF. You can also view reports where you can display by administration, district, school, and report name. And the eDirect user guide explains all of this with screenshots if you need more support. We also have parent guides for the LEAP Connect and ELPT. These are available in our Family Support Toolbox, but they should go home along with the results. For LEAP 360, we have a few updates. The first one is interim reports for all forms were posted in eDirect on April 9th, and that includes district item response files, school test session summary reports, and test session summary reports. The next scheduled report posting is next Monday, the 23rd, and then the rest of the dates for the school year are listed here as well. As a reminder, when you're thinking about LEAP 360 for next school year, one thing that's a must is there is an MOU amendment that needs to be signed by you and the superintendent and submitted to LDOE through the assessment@la.gov email by July 7th. While you're planning, know that it will still be available at no cost next year. You all should definitely anticipate a cost for 2019-2020, but it's also a time to reflect on your existing assessment practices, reducing duplicative testing, and transitioning to a more comprehensive assessment system. LEAP 360 helps you do that, so we want to make sure that as you're planning for next year, you are evaluating your current assessment practices. LEAP 360 should be in place of, not in addition to, your assessments. If you need help with auditing your assessment practices, let us know. We can send you some resources and help you through it. But know that the first step really is for the MOU to be submitted so that you can have access for 2018-2019. The first year of LEAP 360, we collected feedback, and we collected a lot of feedback. So it was thousands of pieces of feedback we received from focus groups, site visits, talking to people, emails, phone calls, our network teams, and we chunked them into 5 priorities: data management, educator scoring, reporting, content, and EAGLE. And at the March Supervisor Collaboration, I did a presentation on this, and if you go to the link here, you'll be able to access it. But just so you know, those are the 5 priorities based on the feedback you all gave, and so we are working to provide you more details on what that'll look like for 18-19. But if you have any questions about it, feel free to call or email me, and I'd be more than happy to talk through it with you. We have a couple of updates. I just want to skim through these next 2 slides. I'm sure some of you have noticed throughout the year, especially if an issue has come up, that at the end of the day, your data person is probably the most important person in order to make everything for assessments happen, and among other things in your LEA. And so I wanted you to know what the data coordinators are being tasked to do so that you're in the loop, because without them, assessment would not happen. So we want to make sure that you and your data coordinator are very tight on communication and making sure accurate data are in any systems. So end of year data is being submitted by your data coordinator to close out the school year, and it's important to kids, it's important to funding, it's important to accountability and career and tech work. And so I really want to make sure that you all are aware of the things that they need to do and to ensure that the data in their data system is accurate. A couple of things that are enhancements for next school year that was reviewed with the data coordinators at the March supervisor collaboration were 4 main updates. The first one was new online forms for sponsor site. That's to eliminate duplication of work and make it easier for you all to submit forms. The second one is about LIQ, and this is to help build a new assessment database for LEAs to get their students' assessments and test scores and enhance reporting options. Also, we have a change to eliminate the teacher-student data link system by using eScholar as our source of truth for information with DRC. And the last one is for students with 504 plans, the accommodations for read aloud will be broken out by subject. So instead of having one checkbox for read aloud, it will have a read aloud for math, read aloud for social studies, science, and ELA. These next slides are just reminders of all of our assessment resources. So this includes our assessment guidance documents, our technology documents, our webinars, information about the practice tests, rubrics, any resource we have about testing was listed there. The 2018-2019 school system planning calendar has been released, and this includes all of my calls for next year, so you'll know which days are Q&A and which are monthly calls. And it also gives you the dates for the collaborations and newsletters being distributed, among other things. The Teacher Leader Summit is actually right around the corner, so we want to make sure you all are thinking about who you want to send and what you want to do at it. It begins May 30th and it ends Friday, June 1st, and it's at the Convention Center in New Orleans. It is our biggest event with thousands of educators there learning tons of stuff. This year's theme is meaningful growth for every student every day. And I'm going to share with you some sessions related to assessment, although you should definitely check out the overview for the whole summit summary and everything that's going on. At the Teacher Leader Summit, we'll have sessions on LEAP 360, so the guidance documents, an overview of LEAP 360, and ELA and math sessions. We'll also have LEAP 2025 sessions, and those are listed here. You'll have some for ELA, math, social studies, and science. We also have English learner sessions, and we'll have 2 sessions on ELPT. One of them is on the results. The other one is about the ELPS, which is the screener for next year. And we'll also have sessions on students with disabilities. We'll have a LEAP Connect session particular to high school for our high school students next year. So if you have special ed teachers, English learner teachers, assessment crew that want to come, these would be sessions they should definitely attend. Also, as a reminder, if you have a new district test coordinator, a new district test coordinator backup, a new accountability contact, a new accountability backup, or a new address, anything new to contact information, it is required by policy to send us these changes within 15 days of when this happens. The form is listed here. This form will add the new person by replacing the old person. So we have one DTC on file for every LEA, which is why it's so important that that information is correct. This will give them access to all the systems and things like that, so you want to make sure this form is submitted in a timely manner. We also have our assessments customer service contact information list. This lists all of our assessments and their customer service emails and phone numbers or chats. If you want to print that as a one-pager in your office, just have everything in one place. It would be a really good idea, especially if you're new. That way you have everything in one place for you. We also have our weekly newsletters, weekly and monthly calls, assessment and accountability libraries, and our email and phone number in case you need to reach us. And our next call for non-public test coordinators will be May 15th at 2 o'clock. If you need anything, as always, let us know, but definitely finish strong with assessments this year, and I will talk to you all next Tuesday on office hours.
This has been a presentation of the Louisiana Department of Education, copyright 2018, all rights reserved. For more information or to contact the Louisiana Department of Education on the web, go to www.louisianabelieves.com or call 1-877-453-2721.